The big game is fast approaching, but wait, you still haven't got your tickets. You've spent hours searching, but you're still confused about ticket prices. Time to stop searching. Visit ticketcompare.com. We compare ticket prices for all the popular leagues and tournaments for you. We work only with the most trustworthy sites, so you can have peace of mind when buying your tickets. Compare prices, buy tickets, get to the game. Ticketcompare.com. Buying tickets made simple.
But he was able to join in, which is enormous progress really, considering that he's so far ahead of schedule. So we're very happy that his progress has been as fast as it's been, but we obviously have to be careful because it was a serious injury, and under normal circumstances you wouldn't have expected him to be back this quickly.
You said he's been involved with the squad in general at the moment. Does that mean he might have a chance to play some part of the weekend?
He was involved today, and so we'll see how he feels when he comes in tomorrow and see if he's able to train with the team again tomorrow, which again will be a fairly light session. And then it will be a question of speaking to him and seeing how he feels from that moment on. But I mean, I've got to make it clear that it is a remarkable recovery, and we have to be very, very careful to make certain that we don't suddenly think that because he's able to take part in 2 modified training sessions that he's going to be able to come back and be the Wilf Zaha that he was before the injury, and the Wilf Zaha that all Palace fans are hoping is going to get back onto the field of play and help us win matches.
You said you'll ask him how he's feeling, see if he can join in. I mean, most players are itching to get back.
Yes, he is.
So I mean, if he tells you he feels absolutely fine and he wants to get back involved, does that mean that you'd think, well, it might be risky you can put him on the bench for the weekend?
That's a good question. I mean, I think it will be a matter of discussing it with him, but also with the doctor and the physios who've been looking after him for so long. And I quite agree with you. It's very dangerous to ask football players what do you think, because they'll give you the answer that suits them at the time. And if they're the type of guys who want to play, they'll say, I'm okay. But sometimes you can do a lot of damage by accepting that answer if it doesn't tie in with what everyone else at the club thinks is right for them at this moment in time. But we're very pleased to see him back as quickly as has happened, so that's a major positive, and it's all credit really to both him and the medical staff that we have here, because the initial prognosis, if you remember, was that people were talking end of season rather than 6 weeks.
Just the last one on Will. You'll speak to Doctor, you'll speak to him from your point of view with the 9 games left to go, and so is there any thoughts on your part of thinking, well, even if he's not 100%, I need him back in the team as quickly as possible?
Of course. I mean, he's one of all teams are reliant upon their decisive players. You know, their MVPs, if we're to use an American analogy. Everyone's dependent upon those, and so when you have a player out for any length of time, and obviously you're missing him because every team misses its star players, there's always a risk that you're going to push for him maybe to come back earlier than he should, and that's the balance I've got to get right. I would be delighted if it was possible for him to play any part in the game on Saturday, and I'm sure the fans, everyone would be too. But we must remember that it still is early days, and what we definitely don't want to do is push him back that week too early and then miss him for the rest of the season. That's something we definitely don't want to do, and I think everyone will understand that.
Of course, Will's not the only injury concern that you've had. Where are the others? Are you expecting any others back at the weekend who've been missing recently?
Not really. Mamadou Sakho, they tell me, is going to sort of join in with the team tomorrow, but it will be a very light training session. He's not been with us for weeks now, seems like months even. So that will be a question, I suppose, with him as well, seeing how he feels. But it would be unrealistic to think he could start the game. But it's like everything else. If people are fully fit medically and mechanically, I suppose there's no reason why they can't be involved in the game. But once again, I'll need to speak to both Mamadou and the medical people, the physios, and everyone else is still injured.
Around the place, what's it been like over the last few days off the back of what was a particularly difficult defeat to take?
all defeats are difficult to take, I find. I don't know, I'm still waiting for that defeat, which is easy to take. It's not happened in my career yet. I think the mood's fine. It's you have to accept that. You know, we're playing against a top team with enormous potential, especially on their bench, to change things around and to put us under the sort of pressure we were put under during the last 20 minutes of the game when Jose was able to make the substitutions he made. But I think the players understand that they did a good job. They worked very hard. I think the crowd was excellent as usual. They supported us right the way through to the end, and I think they understand too that the team gave as good a performance as one could expect the team to give, but it was just a bit unfortunate that we didn't get any points from the game. So there's nothing wrong with that. We always knew going into these games points are going to be hard to come by, but the one thing that the last two games have shown me is that there's a lot of fight and a lot of spirit in the team, and we still have that incredible support from the crowd, which can transmit itself, if you like, to the players on the field and keep us going where other teams might not have the benefit of that.
You go in with, take those positives from the game and the crowd and so on, the backing you have. Also, you go up against Chelsea, a team you've already beaten this season, perhaps a team that's not going through the best of times at the moment. Is this a good time for you to be coming up against Chelsea?
No, I think normally when you come up against a team that is not having the best of times, to use your expression, I think can be a very dangerous time to come up against them, because Chelsea are the champions of England, and they'll be champions of England until a new champion is crowned. And what's more, they have fantastic players. They're a brilliantly run club, a very powerful club, and they have a very good manager and coaching staff. So there's not too many positives I can take, I'm afraid, when you're looking at playing Chelsea, either home or away. All you can hope for is that we can, in some ways, reproduce the performances we've done, certainly in the last two games against two similar opponents in Tottenham and Manchester United, and make certain we give them as good a game as we've given the other two.
What do you make of Chelsea the other day against Manchester City? Because Antonio Conte said he sent his team out to make sure they didn't get picked off in the way other teams have done by Manchester City. Other people, pundits, ex-players, have said they looked at Chelsea and looked like they weren't trying for their manager. Did you see a team that was just holding its shape and keeping its orders, or a team that wasn't running, wasn't trying for its manager?
I don't know why you need football coaches to comment on these things. You've got all the comments you need to keep your newspapers and your mass media work going from all the people who make those comments. My sympathy is always with players and with coaches. I'm afraid that's where I have always been, it's where I always will be, and I think that when you play Manchester City and you've got to find a way of setting your team up to make certain that you don't get overrun, I will never be criticising any coach for the thoughts or tactics he's decided upon, which I'm sure he decides upon in relation to how he sees the game and what players he has available to carry out the orders. So I see these things, I listen to them, and I understand it's a part of football, but it doesn't need to be a part of football that I have to be a part of, because I have my own team to worry about, my own tactics and my own concerns going into each game. And so as a result, I definitely leave Chelsea and Manchester City to Conte and to Guardiola, and I watch from afar, listen to lots of things, but prefer to keep my mouth shut as much as possible.
If I can follow up on that, when you hear those comments, and you hear people suggesting that Antonio Conte is either trying to send a message to his board, or is he even, people suggest he's trying to get himself the sack. As a football man, can you think of a situation where a manager sending his team out to do anything other than go out and get the best result possible?
It's typical second guessing, isn't it? You know, you have to fill your airspace, you have to fill your newspapers, and I suppose it's your job to speculate why this, why that, why the other. I've got no idea what went on in the thinking of both managers before the game, during the game or after the game, and I'm certainly not prepared to make any comments on it.
Finally, for me, if I can ask you a couple about Aaron Wan-Bissaka, who came in, rave reviews from him as well. He's filled in at a time of need with injuries. Has he done enough in the couple of games to suggest that, even with others fit, he can still do a job, hold on to a shirt?
Absolutely. We've believed in him, I and my coaching staff, from the first moments we've had him training, first moments we saw him playing for the under-23s, and then from the time we've had him training with us, which has been for a while now. And we've always thought this is a player who can do a good job in the Premiership. Obviously, with young players, you're always concerned, is this the right moment to throw them in or is it not? In Alan's case, the moment came because it was thrust upon us. You know, we didn't have anybody else to play in that position. The competition had disappeared. But certainly he's done ever so well, and now I think it will be for the competition that are getting fit to be worried about him and to try and make certain they can knock him off his perch, because you don't get tougher games than playing against Tottenham Hotspur and United, and sometimes it's not easy to play against them at home anyway, because they're both such good counter-attacking teams. He's played against players of the quality of Sanchez and Dele Alli and Kane and Son and Lamela and all of these players, and can come through both games with flying colours. So at the moment he has the shirt, and it will be up to now the people getting fit to make certain they try to get the shirt from him rather than the other way around.
And he's come through the ranks, now he's had his chance in the first team. What kind of lad is he now that he's had that break? Is this sort of guy that it won't go to his head, or you have to keep his feet on the ground, or you know, what's his personality like now?
No, I mean he's a quiet man to start off with, and a good professional, gets on with his work. Difficult for me to analyse his mental state or how he's feeling at any moment in time, but certainly I've not noticed any change in him over these last couple of weeks, other than of course he's rather pleased that I forced him to stay at the club in January and didn't go along with his desire to go and play football on loan somewhere. And he must obviously be extremely proud of himself, because, you know, to handle those two games and his performances and the way he's done must be a source of great satisfaction. But I've not noticed any particular change, and I don't think, from what I know of him, which is not a great sample, but from the time we've been working together, I've not seen the type of person whose head will swell or who will suddenly start to lose track of the fact that he's still a young man breaking into the Crystal Palace first team, getting his debut in the Premiership with a long career ahead of him, because he's 20 years of age, and hopefully he'll be looking at the next 15 years at least, rather than the last couple of weeks.
Just finally, just on that, you mentioned there in January persuading him to stay. Was he keen on getting away then?
Yes, I mean, that I thought was a very positive thing, because it showed that, you know, he like ourselves thought that yes, you're starting to outgrow the under-23 matches. You've done that. You're conducting and acquitting yourself very well at that level, and you are ready for the next level. But my point was, you know, just be patient, stay with us here, stay with us in training, because your chance might come here. And I don't like the idea of having to loan you out to a lesser level of football, when I think that, you know, you'll be capable of taking on the challenge at this level. And luckily he was happy to hear that and stay with us.
That's right. No,
Well, it was mine. So whether he was happy to stay with us or not, he had to stay with us because I decided. But I mean, at least he didn't seem to be crying too many tears about it.
This is definitely the last one. I know it's just a couple of games into his career. You've seen a lot of young players over the years coming into football. Can you look at players at this sort of age, a couple of games, see how they've adapted in a big game and identify them and think, yep, this one in particular, if he keeps his head straight, he's got a really big.
Of course. It depends upon what qualities players have got, but you know, their technical and physical qualities are very important. They're the qualities you look at to some extent when you're deciding, you know, has he got the wherewithal to play in the games. So if you've got those qualities that are necessary, you're already a long way along the road. So I suppose after that it does depend a little bit on how lucky you are with injuries in your career, and how I suppose you manage the other external factors in the game that we all know exist. And one of those external factors is the one you've actually brought up. You know, are you going to allow a couple of good games and a few pats on the back to go to your head, or are you going to keep working as hard as you've done to get where you are, and to realise that the only way forward is unfortunately to do that, because the moment you take your foot off the pedal, or the moment you think you've arrived, that's when you start going backwards. It's an old cliche, but everyone knows it, and unfortunately it's true.
Okay, Lindsay.
You've just slipped into the relegation zone off the back of the disappointing Manchester United results. Since then, have you sat down with the players and spoken to them about the challenge ahead?
Well, we speak to each other all the time. If you mean, have I had a specific meeting about whether we're in the relegation zone or not, the answer is no, because we've always known that, and I think I've said right from the very start, this is going to be a battle which I think will go very, very close to the end of the season. And if you're going to be jubilant every time you get to 17th place, and you're going to be absolutely devastated every time you drop into 18th place, you're going to ride a roller coaster. We know what we've got to do, we know how many games there are left to play, we know what sort of football and what sort of attitude we've got to maintain if we're going to have a chance of being one of the teams that survives rather than one of the teams that doesn't. So there's no need to have specific meetings on that subject.
You mentioned about the bigger performances against Spurs and Manchester United, and then you actually beat Chelsea earlier this season. Do you feel there is something within this squad that is more fired up for those bigger games with the bigger teams?
No, not particularly. That would only be the case if I could look back at other games where we've not played the so-called big teams and think that the performances were weak in some way. That's not been the case. There's been very few games where I think our performance level has dropped to a level which I've not been satisfied with most of the time. I've been relatively satisfied with the performance level, so no, I don't think we're that type of team, and I think that the energy and the discipline and determination that we were able to bring in these last two games, I think we'll be able to bring those to the next 9 games as well.
What do you think a victory or something from this next match would bring in terms of going into those next final 8?
Well, I suppose the answer to that one, unfortunately, is the simple one as well. Every time you get a victory, and even points sometimes, even single points from games where people maybe haven't expected you to do so, it's an enormous boost. But the fact is, there is no way that you as a manager or coach can in some way use that. It will either happen or it won't. And the most important thing is that in the next game that you play, after this one now, that you're ready to go again and ready to make certain you do your very best to get points in that game. We'll be doing our our utmost to get something against Chelsea. We were fortunate enough to beat them early in the season, but that means nothing. We've got to produce the sort of performances we've produced in the last 2 games at least against similar quality opposition, and maybe hope that if we reproduce that we won't suffer the I won't call it misfortune, but you won't suffer having to concede those last minute goals which see a result that you think you might have been worthy of thanks to your fighting performance taken away from you in that last minute. You've got to hope that won't happen to you again, but it could. And we've got to be ready for all of those things. But everything for me is going to be performance and attitude. Everything's going to be linked to our desire to get out of this situation. And we mustn't fall into the trap of thinking that if we get a positive result on the Saturday against Chelsea, suddenly everything is hunky-dory, or vice versa, because that would be very, very dangerous.
Finally from me, we've got to this point in the season where there are still so many teams that could be involved in this relegation battle. Have you had to change or adapt anything that you're doing in this very unique fight for this season?
No, we work every day in training. We try to make certain that the training sessions are relevant to the games we have to play. We try to prepare the players as best we can for the type of challenges that each team puts in front of them and us, and we try to make sure that the training sessions are at the highest possible level, and we try to make certain that we keep our focus on the next game and that we don't start speculating and second guessing, because that's not really our job. That's more the job of people who have to write and talk about football. Our job really is to actually make certain that we don't make too many mistakes in the playing of it.
To that end, Roy, how many points do you think you're going to need to start the season?
I don't know.
Have a guess.
I don't guess. You see, that's the point I think I've been trying to make for a long time now. I don't second guess. I don't try and read into things. I don't try and work out what Conte or Chelsea or Man City or Man United are thinking. I just get on with the day-to-day work. It must sound pretty boring, but that for me is what being a football coach is. And I think that there'll be plenty of people out there who will already have decided the number of points necessary. I'm just waiting to see how many of that will be. When I was at Fulham, we survived on 36. My friend Trevor Brooking went down on 42 with West Ham United. So I would say somewhere between 36 and 42 would be a decent answer.
After Saturday, your running is fairly kind. It's kind of the most towards the bottom.
Now you're playing the game on paper again for me.
Sorry?
You know, now you're playing the game on paper for me. Which ones are we going to lose and which ones are we going to win? You know, let me know where the 3 points we're going to get are, and the ones that I won't bother. I can save myself the trouble of getting to the game.
You must have sat at home and had a little look at it and worked it out like that.
No, I don't think that way. I'm sorry, I don't think this, well, we're not going to win this one, this is too difficult, and we'll win that one because they're no good. I don't think that way. You know, for me, every game is a very tough game. I don't think we have one game left which isn't going to be a complete and utter battle, and if we're not at our very, very best, we will be able to win. That's what I think. So I just concentrate on trying to make certain every game that we are what I consider to be our best, and it would be nice if some of the other teams around us start to play badly, but I don't know that they're going to do that.
Would you take it now, going down to the last game, having a chance to have against West Brom?
No. I don't like to think about the last game against West Brom. I've had one of those last games in my career, only one, and I don't really want another one. I would be happier if we could extricate ourselves from the bottom three before that and not find ourselves going into a final game against West Brom or anybody else for that matter.
Finally, from me, one of the Palace have won the bridge for the last couple of years. You've beaten them early in the season, has been well documented. Similar tactics on Saturday, or have you got something a bit different for Chelsea?
Well, I don't understand that, sorry.
Do you think the way of beating them early in the season, is that the way to do it again on Saturday? Or?
Well, I can't remember what specifically we did other than what we always do. I mean, I'm sure we worked very hard. I'm sure we got behind the ball and pressurised the ball. I'm hoping that we passed it well when we got it. I don't remember exactly, but I do remember the last two games quite vividly, and certainly I can imagine Chelsea putting us under pressure for big spells in the game where we'll have to be very compact and very disciplined. And I'm hoping that, you know, as we did against Tottenham, perhaps even more so against Manchester United, we'll create our own chances from time to time, because, you know, setting a team out and believing you can play 0-0 by letting them have the ball all the time and to swarm around your penalty area, everyone knows is a dangerous tactic, because balls bounce around in penalty areas and they don't always fall kindly for you.
Okay, Jamie.
Roy, good afternoon to you. Let's look at this London derby, because is there still the significance for players? You look at supporters, and it's these type of games that they really look forward to, with foreign players coming into the game more and more. Is there still the significance for the players, would you say?
Yes, I would think so. Derbies are derby games, and everyone realises the importance of them. I think that, I don't know to what extent Chelsea Crystal Palace is a massive derby in that respect. I haven't been here long enough to tell you that Chelsea is more important than Arsenal or Tottenham or West Ham or the other teams. It is two London teams playing against each other. Brighton's the one I know that for the fans they see as their most important one, and that's not even a local derby. But no, I think that the message gets through to everybody. I don't think you need to bring in the subject of foreign players in that respect, I don't think there's any difference, because they quickly understand when they join a club where the importance of matches lie, and we understand that. But I've got to say that in preparing games as a coach, and I'm certain I'm talking also for the players, you think much more in terms of the quality of the team you're going to meet and the problems that team is going to cause you, or you could possibly cause them, rather than thinking in terms of, well, it's a derby game. I think that's to some extent less important than saying, well, right, it's Chelsea now, how good are they and what do they do and how are we going to deal with this? I think there's much more of an element of that involved than thinking it's a derby today. But there are, so, I mean, you're going to say, well, what about Rangers, Celtic? Well, you know, there you're bringing other elements into it.
This season is perhaps more unique than others. When you look up at 8th place, that team could still, you look at it, be relegated. In terms of seeing that negative swing and dropping down the table, realistically, spinning that on its head, you get a couple of results, you can push right the way up, can't you?
Yes, I mean, we were at one stage. I mean, we went from being rock bottom with 7 games, no points, no goals, to being about 11th or 12th or something ridiculous there. But you always knew that does depend. There's going to come a run of games where you are going to lose them, because unfortunately, when you're not one of those top 5 or 6 teams, we used to say we're not one of the top 12 or 13 or 14 teams. But if I take your point that now maybe there's 12 teams more involved in looking over their shoulder, looking upwards, you always know if you're one of those that you're going to lose a run of games, because that's how it is. If you are one of those 12 teams and you don't get a losing run of games, then you're one of the top 8. So we know what's ahead of us, and we know we've got to deal with it.
And just finally from me, Roy, this is the opportunity to hopefully keep Crystal Palace in the Premier League, and you're back involved on a day-to-day basis. How much are you enjoying it after the England experience, getting the opportunity to work with players closely and get that chance to hopefully keep a club that you love in the top 9?
Of course, it's, you know, exactly that. It is nice to get back to the day-to-day after 4 years of national team football, and, you know, even not so long, 2 years with Finland before that. So 6 perhaps of the last 11 or 12 years have been spent with national teams. So it is nice after an absence to get back to the day-to-day stuff and work with the players on a day-to-day basis. And I am enjoying that aspect of it. When I came to the club, the goal was clear for us all at the club. We want to survive the Premiership. We've not had any, there's never been any talk since I've started that we need to be in this or that position in the table. It's all just been we need to survive this season, and we've got 9 games to go and nothing has changed, and I'm certainly enjoying the challenge of trying to help the team to achieve that goal.
Great, thank you very much. That's the end of the broadcast section. Thank you.